Hello, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. That's right, we're back. I'm so excited for tonight. We are going to be talking about the 1976 classic Logan's Run, sci-fi dystopia, but it really is pretty because it's the 70s. I mean, the big game changer film, obviously, in the genre was going to come a year later with Star Wars in 77. So this is almost like that last ramp up to like what would become the Star Wars effect afterwards. This is a film that in its day cost a lot of money. MGM that put out the film wanted you to understand that this is like the biggest sets and the biggest extravaganza since the heyday of MGM musicals back in the day. And boy, did they throw a lot at the sets, the costumes, the lighting. And Farrah Fawcett. I mean, who doesn't love seeing Farrah Fawcett? She has a tiny little role, but I'm sorry, if you're a Gen Xer, she shows up on screen and just lightens the whole film up. Peak Farrah hair, the whole nine, which apparently was very future forward. Who knew? It was great. I love this movie. I love 70s science fiction. I feel like you have to kind of look at it in kind of the lens in which it was made. I think, you had, Planet of the Apes coming out in like around 68. And then you had kind of the Soylent Greens of the Western world. You had the Omega Men, coming in. And I think you had Logan's Run and Silent Running and a lot of these really interesting films that perhaps take on even more resonance today, because we're still, I think, struggling with things like climate change and humanity and groupthink and authoritarianism. I mean, it's evergreen, really. So that's why we love science fiction. It's a big speculative what if. And sometimes the what if isn't that far. It's about 10 seconds from our reality. So it was an interesting film I found to revisit against the time frame in which we are recording this show. So very cool. Before I get too far ahead, I want to light up my sick partner who has like a really nasty cold, in case you think he sounds weird. It's okay. He's doing a Kathleen Turner imitation, but we love him anyway. He is playing the role of the muttering old guy. You guys know him as Todd Anderson. He's my partner in mayhem. Todd, bring yourself up.
Hi. Hi. Yeah, sorry if I sound congested. It's because I am.
Yeah, you're so method. It's like
yeah, that's right. It's right. I'm researching a role as an office worker who's stressed out and his immune system's messed up, so he gets a cold. I think I can play this. I think I can do it.
I think you've got it. Give it to Chris Nolan. It could be a 3-hour journey into something. Yeah.
I was telling Jeff before the show started, in the green room.
Green room.
I'm happy to report that no Nazis locked us in the green room and wouldn't let us out. That's great.
Lucky.
But this movie, Logan's Run, is one of Hillary's all-time favorite movies.
Oh, I love that.
She absolutely loves this. I love it too. I think mostly because she loves it so much. I think maybe the first time I saw it when I was a kid on TV, I was like, well, that's kind of cheesy. But what you were saying before, and you mentioned Omega Man and Silent Running, and then there's this, and these are like, when I think about it, these are hard sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
They're not space operas, which Star Wars ultimately was, but you also mentioned the color involved. The costumes alone are so colorful. In all these movies, there's so much color, and it's so interesting to think that Star Wars would be taken more seriously maybe than these, because its colors were muted. It was like the desert and the Death Star was grays and blacks and browns and all that stuff. And
it was very black and very white, and yes, on white.
Yes, I just that was a really interesting thing to think about.
But there also is this flourish of like MGM with its storied past and the big musicals and the pageantry and the lighting and all of that they're like, we're going to do this as a film. I had read somewhere that the original cast for this, they were thinking John Voight, your former actor buddy, John Voight should be Logan 5, and Lindsay Wagner of the Bionic Woman fame was originally talked about as potentially being the female lead, which would have been really interesting as well, especially if she would have showed up in the same movie where Farrah's at. I think that would have been like a Gen X.
In the 70s, Voight wasn't crazy yet. I think he was like politically pretty liberal, according to the people I know who knew him.
The Coming Home era, right? Coming Home was like 2 years after this.
He was very liberal-minded back then. Something, I don't know if it was a 9/11 thing. Maybe that happened to a lot of people.
might be
like
smart.
Dennis Miller just
Dennis Miller.
happened and just was like, I'm not going to be funny anymore.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
happens.
he's excelled at that, so good for him. It's good to have goals and go.
Nailed it.
I don't even know, but I want to bring Jeff into this so we have time to talk about all the good stuff. For those of you watch this show, Jeff is by far, I think, our biggest fan, best supporter, and really corrects our asses when we're inaccurate, and so we have always a great debt of gratitude. He talks about himself as he's just a dude, originally from Western New York. He grew up mostly in Pensacola, Florida. He's a former Marine. Thank you for your service. He's lived in Oklahoma, Japan, San Diego, Jacksonville, and now he's back in Buffalo. He is our favorite insurance claims adjuster. He's probably seen Double Indemnity a whole lot of times. We are excited to have Jeff Luce back in the house. Jeff, welcome back to the program, sir.
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Hey. Hello, everybody. How's it going? I blame Ricky Schroeder for turning John Voight. Even if Ricky was just a little boy.
In the champ, he talked Voight.
Yeah, he was good in that movie.
Maybe they both happened to each other.
Oh my God. Is that
maybe they were like talking and bonding, because you got to do that as actors, and then one of them was like, but what about maybe vaccines are bullshit? What shouldn't we be putting people in death camps?
I feel like when he stopped being Ricky, he became Rick. That's it, all went downhill from there.
Yeah. You can wrap him and Voight and Kevin Sorbo in a box.
Oh, and Kirk Cameron.
Wrap it and put Merry Christmas and chuck it in the ocean.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Jeff, it's been a minute. Remind the kids at home, for you, what makes a great shitty movie? And by way of that answer, reminding us, how did you arrive on Logan's Run for tonight?
Oh, I got a great story about how I got to Logan's Run.
Okay.
So for me, a bad movie is just a great shitty movie is just something that, like I said earlier, it's just a warm hug when you watch it.
Yeah.
Right. Not everybody gets it. It's not for everybody. It's for special people. Right. And so for Logan, how I came to Logan's Run is a weird story. So as a kid, my taste in art always leaned more mature than my actual age. So like 77, I would have been 6 years old, and Logan's Run was a TV show that I know I watched. Didn't even know it was a movie. I know I watched the TV show. I'm not going to tell you that I understood what the TV show was about until I was 6 years old. But the name Logan's Run, in my brain, there was a mythology being built, right? Because the show was unceremoniously canceled, and just the name Logan, that's like in 77, that's like completely different. That's not a real name. So it's like, this is so cool. Then when cable TV came about, right, and it showed up on what the movie channel, HBO, Showtime, or whatever, and it's this movie, I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And this movie is got a lot of faults that we'll talk about.
Yep.
But it is, it's like watching a novel. It's like, well, it is a novel, but it's like watching a novel. And you get all these textures and these feelings. It's just a warm hug.
It is. And there's also, I find, and I mean, we were all kids when this originally came out, so we were a little too young for it, but you're right. It definitely was like a staple, like on reruns and like on cable. And I found watching it again, like an innocence to this, because they weren't trying to do 100% accurate models. They weren't trying to convince you that but it's almost like when you watch the original Superman the movie, which is about 2 years after this, like the dome city of Logan's Run is not unlike, kind of like Krypton a little bit, where we see that. And then, you look at this modeled city that they're selling us, and it's this close to being Disneyland, really. I mean, in terms of forced perspective and monorails, and I mean, it looks almost like Shamu would be hanging out, and those are bleachers. I mean, it's like this completely like it's just a little too neat, it's a little too slick, but something's rotten in Denmark, which we're going to figure out very soon. But that I love that idea of, we've done post-apocalyptic stuff a lot. I mean, I think in '82 when Blade Runner came out, it kind of set the die, and we've really had a whole subgenre post Blade Runner. Obviously, Blade Runner winking to Fritz Lang's, Metropolis in many ways. But I feel like this was still like bright and pretty, and like the big lie is like colorful, and I thought, what a smart way to disguise what's really going on in this location. It was something definitely when I worked on Ian Flux. I know Karin Kusama was very excited about what would Bregna look like, and that it was a scientists run world and it would be bright and colorful. And I think in a weird way, kind of going more back to this, but of course there was a lie that was undercutting that film and for sure Logan's Run, about the secrets that are contained within and what's going on outside that dome. Which is so fun and lovely to see. If it's been a minute, tell us about like, what is the film about? Jeff, if you could walk us through kind of like the story.
Okay, so everybody has to die at 30 years old. And basically, these two guys here, right? That's Logan 5 and Francis 7.
It's the serial killer from the Mean Season with Kurt Russell. That's who that is.
The great Richard Jordan.
Yeah. So, and they chase down people who try to run away from going to this thing called carousel. Carousel is where you go when you're little in the palm of your hand. There's a little crystal, and when it starts flashing red, it means your time is up. So you're supposed to go to carousel, and these effects are so bad. It's so wonderfully bad. And then you die and you're supposed to be reborn. So it's kind of taking that Christianity, life after death. And it's going to end up turning that on its head when you get to the end of the
or
movie.
like Hinduism too, right? Isn't that reincarnation?
Reincarnation as well. But it is interesting because it's also like, if this is coming out, in 76, Roe versus Wade had just passed. And so, there are some reads of this movie. Is it a rejoinder on feminism? Is it talking about certain things in a different coded light? But when I look at these outfits, I mean, these are terrifying masks, and the flames that they're wearing. I mean, this is like some nightmare fuel for sure. This is like the Eyes Wide Shut party you don't want to go to, like this.
Right.
But I feel like it's interesting because one of the things we should point out is that it is based on a novel. And in the novel, it was like you basically peace out at 21. And so for the film version, they moved it up to 30, which is fun because the two male leads are over 30. So it's like, again, it's fun that Hollywood's it's close enough, It's like, that's enough. Don't trust anyone over 30. It was like, well, you were over 30 in The Graduate, but it's, but it's an interesting kind of thing. But I thought that, again, the production design, the costumes, I mean, these masks are like terrifying. But
they could also be one of the hockey teams in Strange Brew.
Oh, that's a really good man. Amazing. But I also feel like a little Cirque du Soleil action with these guys.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Prefiguring that.
The deaths they're just so epically bad, but I just love them. It's like evaporate.
Yeah, it's like a firework. Yeah.
Yeah, it just evaporates. Like, okay, so I've never read the novel. I've only seen the movie. I feel like the novel probably will maybe. I don't want to read the book.
It's a really good novel. I had to read it for a science fiction class in college.
Oh, interesting.
And it's a really good novel.
Like, basically, this movie is, and probably the novel. I don't want to try to speak on the novel because I haven't read it, but this movie definitely is Brave New World and I Am Legend.
Totally.
And it's just kind of, I'm not going to say it's ripping it off. It's definitely borrowed from those two books for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the whole Brave New World is basically about it's dystopian, but whatever level you are created in, that's what you know, and you don't really care about anything outside of your level. And then it's just completely hedonistic, and it's about keeping you basically medicated on sex and drugs. And think about this: he goes after they go and chase down a runner. These two, they call them Sandmen, which because the Sandman comes to take their life away while you're sleeping. Um, but they they're worse shots than stormtroopers. Oh my God!
Yeah.
'Cause eventually they do kill the runner, but then he goes to his room and he orders up some sex like it's takeout.
Okay, that was my favorite. Like, and there was like a great, like the first time he orders, it's like this hot guy shows up. And I love that they're so fluid. He's like, meh, and then the gal shows up. But the fact that this is 76, like that's actually a pretty progressive. Okay. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit out there. But also the fundamental choice that you have to make. Do you want to run and try to live beyond your 30 years, or do you want to just kind of peace out? And again, it's the, do you have the right to choose your own ending in terms of your life? That's at the forefront of this entire movie. Again, when this is released a couple of years after Roe, I think there's a lot of stuff that's kind of percolating in the background of this movie. But the idea that the people who do run, that you've got these guys who are kind of like Blade Runners, right? I got to go find the replicants. I got to get the skin jobs or whatever. Same kind of thing here. But I actually, to your point, Jeff, like the effects, right? When they actually terminate somebody who is running, it's like this goo. I'm like, wow, that is some shark chum if ever I've seen it.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff for a PG rated movie. Like with the what were you just talking about? Sorry, my cold.
Just the effects and what are we talking about? And choosing when to end your life, how to end your life. Is it the government that decides? Are you the one that decides? What is free will in the context of this domed city, where it's unclear what is, if anything, out there? Which is how you keep people, in groupthink. And
you said it like this movie came a couple years after Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Was put into law. And isn't there a remake of this movie coming out like soon? A couple years after Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court?
Threatening to do this for a while. Leo DiCaprio for years was attached. I didn't check to see where it is now, but it's long been in development in different incarnations.
But they haven't started shooting it or anything.
Not to my knowledge, but I mean,
development hell for a long time. That's for sure.
Well, and they'll probably roll it back to 21 is my guess, because it'll be like the cast of Riverdale or something, but like we'll see what happens. Right? But I love this. And I also look at the loungewear. Like I'm here for all of the loungewear, I think. It's like,
so much pajamas.
I know she's like barely dressed this one. This is a PG movie, guys.
It's a PG movie with lots of boobs. Like not to be crass, but there's a lot of boobage.
There's a lot of boobage going on, absolutely. But so we've got our main guy, Logan 5, who seems to be picking. He seems different, right? So we have Ankh, which is of course the Egyptian symbol for life, right, or living life, and sanctuary. And what does all that mean, Jeff? Like, what world is Logan trying to navigate when he starts to see this from the computer?
Okay, so he is actually being put on a mission because the computer wants him to go find this sanctuary and destroy it. Sanctuary is, I guess it's supposed to be maybe a metaphor for heaven and the people who actually escape from the dome city.
Right.
That's pretty much. So he's actually, it's not that he has a change of heart. He's going on a mission, and he's going to take just a tip with him to get him to where he needs to go to complete his mission. And then he figures out, oh my God, wait a minute, this whole thing is actually bullshit. And now they actually do go on the run.
Right.
Because he's like, his thing is going off, and his friend is coming to get him, and he's like, I don't actually want to die anymore. And they go off on an adventure. And that's pretty much, this movie isn't really
Yeah, and it's just kind of, it's a little episodic from there. But I found like this scene when he goes into this area, which is called the Cathedral Station, personal risk area. This actually reminded me a lot of like when good old Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken lands, at the top of the World Trade Center and Escape from New York, and he goes down. There are people who are like clusters of humanity living, almost feral, like in the burnt out buildings or isolation. And I really felt like the way that this was shot, I thought Carpenter would have for sure seen this film back in the day. And 5 years later, he's doing his own movie. But I also think just iconography wise, like the little blonde girl, I think, Cameron picks this up for Newt. I mean, it's kind of like the blonde, perfect child, what's going on with these people. But then you see like, this almost looks like the Warriors by way of like Fame to me. I mean, you've got like dancers and the bright colors, and they're the rebels, they're the outlaws who are deciding to not live under, I guess, state clampdown in this, in theory, bucolic domed city. But there's something rotten in Denmark here, and so you start to figure out, who am I voting for or rooting for here? Is it kind of the rebels who live off grid, or is it the groupthink folks? And then of course our girl shows up. I mean, peak Farah. I mean, maybe the best hair and teeth combination in the history of cinema. I don't know, but
Amazing.
Absolutely lights up the scene. There's no version of you seeing her going, that's not a star. Like, that it quality. But
she also seems like she's in a completely different movie.
Yeah, she's like auditioning for Saturn III, which will come years later. She's like, okay, I'm going to be with Kirk Douglas, Kirk Douglas, even though he's like really old. Spartacus he had it going on. Yeah. But I also thought this was interesting. So she kind of works for this, it's like a plastic surgery guy. Now, this guy is apparently the director, Michael Anderson's son, Michael Anderson Jr., who is playing this role. But I love the way that they're looking at computers like in 76, like with these kind of antiquated counters, and it looks like almost like a old submarine set.
They're giant, but that, like, in the 70s, at least the early ones, that's what computers look like. My dad worked for IBM. He went to work in a really heavily air-conditioned room, and it was all fucking machines, and it was one computer that he sat inside. Versus now, it's in your hand.
It's scary.
Bad not in those.
But you've got some plastic surgery gone awry, so it kind of prefigures the Real Housewives of whatever zip code you might be into. So there's like a tussle there that's going on, and then you start to see his buddy, and I love this. The new you. This is him exiting the would-be self-enhancement center there. That I love that it's this bucolic place. You're going to check out at 30, but people still think they need facelifts. I'm like, you're not even 30. I mean, it's an interesting look at vanity in the future, perhaps. But then they get caught. You've got a lot of people after them, and you start to see that, in terms of, what's going on with the crystal in his palm, like he's getting ready to kind of check out, that he's about ready to end his transition, which is interesting. And so they're on the run. And then I love these guys just like break through the Sandmen in mass to try to find Logan 5 and his lady love, which is kind of fun. But even the simplicity of these costumes, it works, Yeah.
So, I mean, this movie was probably in production at the same time as Star Wars, with pretty similar budget. And I mean, let's be honest, George Lucas got way more out of his, guns, the blasters and all that. So these blasters, they kind of suck.
Yeah, the blasters apparently don't really work. Michael York talked a lot about how they misfired more than they fired, and I'm like, okay.
This movie also just has really, really horrible sound effects.
Yes,
like, the sound effects are terrible.
Yeah.
Great score, horrible sound effects.
Yeah, it's true. But also the scale of the sets. I mean, the water tanks, you've got like giant aquariums, they really, they shot a lot in Texas, and then also in El Segundo. I believe it's the same power plant that they might have used in Soylent Green, which is the same power plant that Kenny Johnson used, the 2-part Bionic Woman episode where Jamie's trying to base their version of HAL 9000. So it all kind of is like coming back together to lo-fi sci-fi of that era. I think Bionic Woman actually premiered in 76, 77. So it would have been all of the same era this is going on as we're shooting this. But I love also the sets. I mean, this looks like you're in the Matterhorn, you know, they're like this, we're going to sell that this is supposed to be snowy and really, really cold. And of course we never see breath and they're not cold at all, but that's the setup. To be fair, Kubrick
same sets they used in the movie Vertical Limit.
Oh, love that.
This like Peter Pan costuming.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She's that close to Kermit the Frog too. It's a little,
little.
You put it, but I love that they're on the go, and then of course it's how do we get our handsome and beautiful lady, you know, just stripped down so they can wear furs. This is like right out of Barbarella. Like I feel like they're like, let's just put on this, and then suddenly in the next shot he has his shirt back on. I'm like, but you took off your
for a PG movie. They're like leaning into this exploitation. They're
totally leaning in, and then this interesting choice too, like Box. This guy. Lee Roscoe Brown, right? Or Roscoe Lee Brown, rather.
Roscoe Lee Brown, who is the only black person in the entire movie, and then he's in a costume. Like, there's nobody of color in this movie at all.
It's kind of like Star Wars, isn't it?
And like Star Wars, where you had, if not in body, but in voice, James Jones voicing Darth Vader. This is the villain. So you have like two black leads voicing the villains in the whitest intergalactic story you've ever seen.
But aren't you guys so thankful that now racism is over in America?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It just sure seems like that.
What a relief. Woo!
Way to go, red states. But you've got also this kind of great look of people who are like frozen again, nudity in the background, sort of out of focus. They got away with it as a PG rating. But I love that they bust out and they get to see the sun. And I feel like, you know, it's kind of like even in Blade Runner, it's like when they finally make it out, you know, out into the open and the sun is there as opposed to this fake dome city that they've all been subscribing to. Then you start to realize, perhaps exactly like Planet of the Apes, you know, where there's the biggest reveal and we see the Statue of Liberty on the beach with Heston. You know, here we're very much in DC with, you know, the Lincoln Memorial, overgrown.
That same kind of ending was THX 1138, right?
Totally.
He gets out of the underworld and he's in just the desert with the blaring sun.
Yeah, and that we're still using like plates and, you know, kind of old school filmmaking. And it more or less works. They do a nice job.
Well, I mean, I'd say the Logan's Run cats got a better deal than Robert Duvall in THX 1138, because when they get outside, it's not that bad. There's a lot of cats.
Yeah.
There's cats.
I feel like there's some gardening to be done, but you know.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It's like, but you notice in Walking Dead, someone's mowing the lawn. You never see unkept stuff in The Walking Dead. It's always very manicured. I'm like, who is doing that? Yeah.
I don't know. Don't get me started on that show.
But my favorite, the great Peter Ustinov, who plays muttering old guy. Amazing. He's the guy who's been living on the outside. I mean, in this world, I mean, it almost reminded me of that Twilight Zone episode where Burgess Meredith just wants to read and he breaks
and he breaks his thought. Yeah.
But it's like Ustinov is like this eccentric hermit who's just been alone for so long.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a clip of him talking to Logan and the lady about his parents.
Let's do it.
Well, what makes you think that?
Well, my mother told me, and my father.
You knew your mother and father?
Well, sure, they raised me. Where were you grown? Inside your mother? Right inside there. Are you sure? Well, that's what she told me. I don't believe her. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, where are they?
What was that?
Where are they now?
What? Oh, they're dead. Yeah. Oh, buried.
Buried?
They're buried.
Oh my god.
I love it.
I love Hillary's like repeating of that. It's like buried. That's her whole performance is echoing what someone else has just said. It's like so good.
She did it.
Well,
to
and
me.
that's the one point in the scene where he gets a little agitated with them.
Yeah.
Like, they're buried. Yeah.
Like, how do you not know what that is?
Yeah.
That's kind of how he came. That's how he kind of took it. Like, how do you not know?
How do you not know that?
Concept?
But there's also though at the end though where he's like, oh, I kind of really want to be able to see people. Like there's a heartbreaking. I've been really lonely, which justifies how kind of crazy he is.
Well, you know he's crazy because of the amount of cats he keeps company with.
Oh my god! By the way, you usually don't see the fellas with the cats. It's usually the cat ladies. But I felt like it was
a shout out to Ginny, the cat in the reenactment. She did not want to be on that shelf. We kept the stay.
Like Peter Ustinov definitely made a decision to sound like Mr. Magoo.
totally. Oh my god! Yes.
Mhm.
Totally. I mean, he's so wonderful. I love him. I mean, I know Albert Finney got all the love for Poirot and Murder on the Orient Express, but for my money, Ustinov is my favorite Hercule Poirot. Like, I just think, like Death on the Nile, Mirror Cracked, all of that. I'm so here for him in that role, the Belgian detective. But he's wonderful in this, and it's like by the time he shows up, it does feel like the first half of this movie and the second half of this movie are kind of dissonant. Like they don't kind of flow as much, but it starts to get like a little dreary as we get to the end, trying to figure.
Well, I mean, I think that's the point. I mean, that's the point of the novel is that you're living. Yeah. It's peeling and Silent Green that you referenced before. It's peeling the layers back of what seems like a utopia to reveal that it's not, which is THX 113. It's a like classic, hard sci-fi thing to do. Is like peeling back the utopia to realize, oh, it's a dystopia. We've been lied to. It's kind of like what's happening now. I see what you're saying now, Tracy, that I've said it out loud.
It's a little like, like now, like with the big, dumb, beautiful, gonna kill us all bill for poor Hemplo. Yeah. But then you've got like the Sandman, who also, I think this is like the MAGA who just can't quit the felon, you know, like he's seen enough. He should know there's something else out there, but he's still trying to do his,
it's what Nazis do. And then when they're on trial for crimes against humanity, they say, I was just following orders. It's what Nazis do. He's 100% doing what Nazis do. So it's always a weird thing when you're, confronted with dedication to something like that, because we have religion in our society and people of varying degrees of that. And I just feel like leading your political life according to any faith-based ideology leads to this. It leads to what Logan's Run is trying to say.
And I think it's also a really interesting choice to put this in the people's house. Like this is like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with the Sandman in the middle, right? Like this used to be the House of Law and Order. This used to be aspirational. The Treaty of Tripoli tells us, direct quote, this America is in no way a Christian nation. And this is the extension. If it's unchecked and we let, autocracy come in. And it's interesting that they make a meal out of like a lot of the action happens here, right down to someone almost being impaled by a flag, which unfortunately now reminds us of something that happened when 6/21. This, would have been unthinkable before. But it was a choice to actually almost kill someone with an American flag. So they're kind of firing on all cylinders here. And then we cut to this idea that water will save us. Water is a power. Water is somehow keeping this dome city alive. And what you realize is Ustinov is just kind of like Shelley Winters from Design Adventure, probably not up to the task. So he's going to hang out for a little bit. Our two leads go into the city because they want to warn people. They want to say, look, there is life out here. We don't have to live like this. Groupthink is not the answer. And there's this meditation on, will they listen? They don't want to listen. They're happy with their, the box they've put themselves in. It's an interesting concept to throw out. I mean, again, post Watergate in this moment where they jump in, they swim, they get back out. Michael York tries to warn basically everybody who's going into Carousel, like there's another way, you're wrong. And that's not a message people want to hear.
They don't.
Yeah.
It really is when you watch it through modern.
Do you think that that's what ultimately, because you were saying, Jeff, that this was sort of like shortchanged as far as theatrical release. It was sort of a buried movie at the time.
No, the TV show was.
TV.
Oh, the TV show.
The TV show.
Like one season in 77 because
how did this one do, Tracy? Do you know? Was it
this one did pretty well? I mean, I think they made it for a handful of millions. It did about 25 back in the day, which back then,
yeah, it's a lot.
Was pretty successful. But it's an interesting commentary, and then they try to like almost deprogram him when they capture him. But I love that they make it out. And Ustinov finally gets to see other people. There's a fun blonde lady who's like actually touching him, and he just is kind of like, oh wow, there's somebody here. She would go on to be a very successful Playboy centerfold, I've been told.
Hello.
But then there's this great moment where it's like, again, you see the colors where people are coming out of the darkness and into the real world. And there is something kind of beautiful about that moment where the old guy gets to see young people, the young people get to see that there's something that's been righted. And I love that there's like this antagonistic force that we don't really see personified. We see the Sandmen who are doing the bidding of this dome city, but we don't really get into the hierarchy of control or politicians or any of that. It's just kind of like the group, which is the choice. It's interesting.
It is, and you're right. It's a very cool. This is what Jeff is saying about this movie, is that it's a warm hug of a movie ultimately, but also I can see being turned off by it if you're not in the mood for something that's more challenging, which is weird because it's presented in such a way with all these bright colors and all this action and these cool sets. Whether you think the model work is good or not, they're like trying. And cool sewer treatment plants, and matte paintings and all this stuff. But then you're confronted with a very dark, ultimate reality that this movie is telling you exists. It's the Matrix, man. It's the same thing.
It is.
It's just the everything that you've liked is not good, is what a movie like this is telling you. And I get being turned off, but then, like you said, it just got this ending where it's overturned and there is light at the end of the tunnel and hope and truth. There's hope and truth. And that is just such a warm hug of an ending. I think of one of my favorite movies of all time is Jacob's Ladder. And this is a movie that's relentlessly dark and horrifying through most of its running time. But when you get to the end and you realize what's been happening, finally, it really is like very hopeful and very much.
There's also what nice about this movie is like there's also the idea of love. It's like we will find each other, we will save each other. There's a humanity there, and we will go out into the light. Which is that theatrical. And I mean, Ridley Scott has at least 20 versions of Blade Runner, but the theatrical version a lot of us grew up with in the 80s and I still have on VHS, getting out of the evil city into the sunlight, into that countryside, which of course for film nerds is kind of famously known, was actually footage Kubrick shot for The Shining that he didn't use for the opening sequence when the Torrances are going up in the bug to the overlook. And so it's actually Ridley Scott repurposing Kubrick's footage, not used in The Shining, to give us, Blade Runner's hopeful ending, which I always think is funny because I don't look to Kubrick to be hopeful. And so the idea that that footage was used by Ridley in a completely different setting is filmically interesting to me. But there is something here, but that I do think this film holds up. Obviously, the effects, it's of its era, but the themes and the things that I asked you to think about, I think it's a really good film to take a look at right now, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum. I think this is one of those movies that, you know, people three of us might disagree with politically, would look at this and they would see it from a different lens. And I think it works on both levels. It's like, I always think of something like Juno. I mean, I can't think of anything more controversial perhaps than trying to make a movie about the abortion debate, but yet pro-life folks are like, see, Juno, she kept the kid. And then the pro-choice, yeah, it was her choice. She kept it. So it works for everybody on that. It's an interesting thing. It's a very hard thematic to walk a tightrope. And I think Logan's Run, you know, coming out of Watergate, coming after we don't trust our government, you know, this is something that was long in development, but then suddenly got juice. I mean, George Powell, you know, gave us the War of the Worlds and, you know, the Time Machine, and really as our friend Justin Humphreys wrote brilliantly in his, I think, definitive book about George Powell. Like, he's the godfather basically of science fiction cinema. He was supposed to produce this and he got really busy. He actually went to do Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, and that left this producer, Saul David, right, to be able to make this film, but it had been in development for many, many years and different in iterations of cast. So I think all those, I think the moment kind of added up, and through that lens, you get this very colorful, thoughtful movie, which is nice from that era. And I definitely think this and Soylent Green and Silent Running are kind of gems of that moment, particularly. And Omega Man, which I have a
that's great.
I want to build on what you guys are saying here. So for me, there are two correct ways to do a movie or television show with social commentary. You could either be like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and be subversive, or you could be like the CW Supergirl show and just come out and say what it is that you're trying to say.
Interesting.
Those are the two correct ways. Then you got the way of like that movie Civil War with Kirsten Dunst, where you don't say anything. You're just not saying nothing. You're giving me a bunch of pretty performances by really great actors, and you're not giving me shit.
Yeah, and I already saw the Forever Purge, which is the same basic thematic material, and it's way more engaging than Civil War. But Civil War is also a movie that I've seen 3 times because I find it conceptually fascinating. And I want to like it. And sometimes I watch a movie the first time and my immediate visceral reaction is not great. And I watch it again and I'm like, but Civil War I've come back to twice now. And both times I've been like, no, it's still frustrating. It's still frustrating.
So you're getting these just wonderful performances that are basically just, they don't get to go anywhere. You're just getting great acting in nothing. There's no substance to what they're doing.
Yeah, and it feels like because I think Civil War, I think Garland's film specifically is so, I would argue, made of this moment, influenced by the stuff we're currently living in, that to not, in a sense, I don't want to say take a side, but maybe I do want to say take a side. Like, we're kind of living in this moment. We're kind of here. And it's, I know a lot of people love Do the Right Thing, Don't Come at Me. But for my money, I always felt like if you're ending on one screen with a quote from Martin Luther King and then another one from Malcolm X on the same frame, and it's called Do the Right Thing, I feel like make a decision. And I always felt that was a little bit of an ending that I've struggled with. I go back and I watch that movie every few years because I know I'm supposed to love it. I don't. And I feel like with Civil War, the not taking, if you're going to say it, say it. You know, for all of his sins, Oliver Stone over the years has made some very good films. You never wondered about his point of view, rightly or wrongly. And I kind of feel like if you're going to do that, it's hard. It's a little preachy, but I feel like if you're that kind of filmmaker, I'm okay with it. But I think to not make a decision, to not take a side, I
think that's really interesting. I think like Do the Right Thing is one of my favorite movies, and I'm not a huge like overall Spike Lee fan.
No, me neither.
You know, when I saw that at just the right time when I was a kid, you know, and it spoke to me, about a place that I didn't go because I was too afraid. But also, and it did have these, like, I thought Do the Right Thing had these marvelous gray areas that you're talking about. For me, those gray areas really worked. And Danny Aiello's character in particular, that movie, is just one of my favorite portrayals of a person who's like hassling with his own racism, in the best possible way, but in the end, money trumps not being racist, kind of thing. I get what you're saying about it not to, but I think part of the thing that happened with that movie and why it worked for me is actors like Danny Aiello were challenging, who are older than Spike Lee, were challenging. They were veterans and they were challenging him. If you watch there's a Criterion DVD of Do the Right Thing that I have, and there's all the, like, it's exhaustive, all the documentaries, but the most interesting ones are the table reads, where you hear Danny Aiello just arguing with Spike Lee. I don't think this guy, it doesn't make sense. And like in this scene that you wrote, it doesn't make sense that this guy would be this aggressively racist here, because like he knows his business,
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Yeah,
racism, that's a problem that like every character in the movie has an element of it. That's to me, that was the whole point of the movie when I saw it. But in retrospect, considering his greater body of work, I think he was trying to say something else, but he was such a young filmmaker that all these other influences shaped it into something that he didn't necessarily mean.
Yeah,
and that's why that end doesn't play quite right.
I think that was, and even when the film came out at the time, I mean, it's hard pressed to find a really, I would argue, actualized woman in a Spike Lee movie. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about us ladies very much. But at the time,
school. All you have to do is watch School Days
or Girl 6 and be like, okay, got it.
There's misogyny in there.
Which is again, it's an interesting blind spot when you want to, I think, say a lot about underrepresentation. But even when that film came out, there was a lot of commentary, which is what I think Danny, as an older Italian, was trying to say to him. That you're dealing with cliche Italian stereotypes and that there's a depth there. And I think you're right. You have an actor that drove him to a better place than initially the writing. And that's, but also why it's great to have a diverse crew, and it's great to have different points of view, because there are things that we just miss and that we need to listen to everybody. And I think it would be interesting. I would like to actually see a Logan's Run that is more of a rainbow, not just in the costumes, but of different people, because I think without commenting on it, the way that is used would be interesting, and perhaps bring it more into the now, because I'm not so sure we've progressed. I mean, it
would be cool if they actually did the remake and they did it that way. And I'm not saying that because I'm like pro DEI hire. Don't freak out, MAGA. I'm just saying you're right. It would be more interesting, and that the themes that it's playing with would be more interesting if there was a cross section of human beings who represent.
And I think that's and I think it's also a testament to, like, we have moved on somewhat, because I think all three of us, white folk here, could look at this film and go, wow, it's very, very white, and it's something's missing. And that's a good thing, that we inherently, we're not trying to proselytize it, but it's also like, yeah, we can do better. And part of what I think, again, I'm a big Star Trek fan, but like, at the height of the Cold War, Roddenberry chooses to put a Russian on the deck. He chooses to put, a black woman who's like, I'm going to tell you guys where we're hailing, and I'll tell you where to go. Right. It's like, there's a lot of you have like an Asian member, you have a real diverse,
because he was choosing people. He was choosing real people.
He was choosing real people.
None of those characters on Star Trek, as old as that fucking show is, none of them are stereotypes on any level. No, I mean, there is bold. A level of,
but it's bold, right? If it's at the height of the Cold War and we think Russia's going to put this up to put Chekhov on your board, like that's I think, because Star Trek, what I like about Roddenberry's vision is always like the best of us. I think he's more optimistic, and he's like, let me model what it can look like if we work together. I don't think Star Wars is about that. I think it's a different ethos.
No, but Star Wars is just a fun, dumb serial
for
show.
Children. It's fun, and it's
fun, and I like it. I don't know why people take that shit seriously. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Star Wars was really a commentary on on the Nixon administration, right? So Han Solo, Luke
Colonialism,
Skywalker, first of
imperialism.
all, they're hippies, and the Empire is Nixon, right? A really good friend of mine pointed that out to me several years ago, and I was like, because I always knew that Star Wars leaned left, right? You know, just the politics of Star Wars leans left, and if you didn't get that, you're a fucking moron. I'm sorry.
Well, George Lucas, right? I mean, he went to film school to, not go to Vietnam. He has very specific feelings about war and colonialism and all the rest of it. It's just not for kids. Hi, Kim. Yeah.
I do have a question about Logan's Run for the future, right? So this movie was made for like that says $7 to $8 million. All right. Today to make this movie is probably over 100 million, would you say?
Oh gosh, yeah. With this
You-
level of set.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're gonna lean into like a campy version, like
Yeah,
do
don't do
that
that.
kind of thing, then yeah, they have to spend a lot of money. But who knows? I don't know. It's like Ender's Game. When that movie came out, I mean, that had a lot of money behind it, but it didn't necessarily click
Yeah.
with people. So,
But I think there is some good stuff that should be mined if they do remake this ever and get it out. Like there's some it's evergreen, but also contemporary, right? That's why we love science fiction. But there's a lot of things that are talked about here that I think you could really drill down into. Like I'm jealous, Jeff. I never saw the series. I actually would love to watch the series. I know it only lasted one season, but I feel like there's a lot to talk about in this world that is set up that I would have loved to have seen a series about this. Like to me, this lends itself way more to a series than Presumed Innocent. Spoiler alert, the wife did it. I don't need to see a season. I got it. But this is interesting because you could really look at it the way Ron Moore, I think back in the day, what he did with the Battlestar Galactica remake. He was the only guy I could point to who was taking on George W. Bush's, war in Iraq, but with Cylons. It was very clear what he was doing. For people paying attention, and those who weren't were like, it's fun, but it was so much better, I think, than the original Galactica, which was obviously TV's answer to the success of Star Wars, which I loved as a kid. But what Ron Moore did with that same setting, I think, with his 90s version of Battlestar Galactica is really amazing. I went back over Christmas during lockdown and I watched all of them back to back in like a week, and this is some of the best writing.
It's a great show that falls apart just as badly as Lost did at the end.
Oh, nothing is as bad as the last part of Lost. That was heartbreaking.
The last two episodes of Battlestar Galactica, the remake, are the ending of Lost. That's what they are.
The smoke monster?
No, there's no smoke monster, but it's they wake up in fucking limbo heaven. It's supernatural. That was my problem. I was like, this is a good hard sci-fi sort of military-esque story about rebuilding a society in space. And then at the end, it was it's God. It's what God wanted.
But it's better than William Shatner's Star Trek entry, Star Trek 5.
Oh, the Final Frontier.
Oh my God, where the punchline is row, row, row your boat. That's not a good sign.
That's horrid. You're correct. It's not
good. Where we asked the question as the trailer moment, what would God need with a spaceship? And I'm like, he doesn't. That's the answer. She doesn't actually is the real answer. But it's all good. It's all good. It's fine. Okay, so Jeff 11, walk us through final thoughts. What's your pitch if people haven't seen it ever, or if they haven't seen it in a minute? Why should folks check out Logan's Run again from 1976?
Oh, because it's just fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You get something out of it. It does have something to say. So if you're a person who enjoys art that has something to tell you and still be fun at the same time, and sometimes that's kind of a hard balancing act to do. You have to be talented, but and then there's think about Star Wars and how great like just the technology and all that for Star Wars is.
Mm-hmm.
Logan's Run is not that, but it doesn't distract. It kind of actually is just kind of charming, like kind of how. Because, I mean, these movies had to have been in production at the same time, right?
Yeah.
that George Lucas had a little bit more money in it to do what he did, but it's just it's fun. Okay, for Gen X, this is what I'm going to tell you. All right, for Gen Xers, think about when this movie came out, then the television show. The CBS had Logan's Run, then it had The Amazing Spider-Man, which
Oh,
also got unceremoniously canceled.
yeah.
The Incredible Hulk, and then a couple years later, The Dukes of Hazzard. Like, these are all like they're brothers and sisters of each other. And so if you love those things, you will love Logan's Run if you've never seen it. Because it just will give you that.
Yeah.
It'll take you back to your childhood.
In the most zeitgeisty kind of way, too.
Yeah, I
Other
think
shows
that's
are saying they're like zeitgeist shows, and this is a zeitgeist movie. I think that's part of the reason Hillary loves it so much. You know?
Yeah, and and I love the way you said it, Jeff. It is like a big warm hug. I mean, to me, it reminds me of childhood. I love science fiction. It doesn't matter how campy the effects are. I think it still emotionally works. I'm still with Michael York. You know, I'm still waiting for him to figure it out. And then when he's like, let's go to the light. It's a nice thing in a genre that sometimes lately is trafficking in very dark Shakespearean tones. And right now I feel like the news is doing that for me. So this kind of like optimistic sci-fi ending, it was so nice to revisit, I think, in the context. So I thank you for
But
that.
you have to earn. I would say you have to earn that ending by going through some trouble. And I do like, if you're a shitty movie lover, the stuff that's shit in this movie, like Jeff said, are things like effects, you know, and maybe some of the dialogue and some of the performances can be silly. And some of them are like really grounded and great. So it's like this wildly uneven, delicious treat that you get to have.
Yeah.
If you love hard sci-fi, if you love great stories, and you like great movies, you'll probably like this. If you like shitty movies, you know, that go to dark places and challenge you, you're gonna like it too. So there's like something for everybody in Logan's
Yeah,
Run.
it's Neapolitan ice cream.
Ah, there it is.
Mhm.
Taste the rainbow. There it is.
Taste the rainbow. Should we do Be Bad or Be Best, Tracy? Should we do it?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So, Jeff, you know how this works. Trace and I will present some titles of movies. We will ask you to judge if they're so bad nobody should ever watch them. That would be a B bad, or a B best that they're so bad it's awesome and you gotta watch it. Like, why are you wasting your time? Tracy, do you want me to go first, or do you?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, here's mine. Mine is I tried to find movies that had escapes.
Aha.
Logan's Run is an escape movie. So sci-fi escapes is what I was looking for. This is a sequel to a Christopher Lambert film. It's called Fortress 2 Re-Entry. In this one, Christopher Lambert is in a prison that's also a spaceship, and the warden is Pam Grier. Jeff, is this B bad or B best? What?
I mean, it's got Pam Grier, so it has to be best. I haven't seen it. I'm not gonna front like I've seen it. I haven't seen Fortress 2, so you said Pam Grier. Okay, I'm gonna go put it on my. I'm gonna look up on the Roku and see where I can watch it.
Did you see the first one?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
You start with the first one. Start with the first one.
Okay.
Tracy.
I actually loved the first Fortress. I know I haven't, like Jeff, I haven't seen Fortress 2, but I agree with Jeff 100%. If you put Pam Grier in something, it's a B best. It does not matter what the film is. It does not. Like, that lady, she can just take all my money. I adore. Yeah.
I will say this. Angela Bassett is in Critters 4, which is Critters in Space. Critters are from space, but in 4, they're in space.
Wow.
And so is Angela Bassett dealing with them.
Well, she would also do the great zero gravity sex scene with Spader when he was
Supernova. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think
Supernova lady.
yeah, Supernova is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic garbage. And this movie, it looks like Critters 4. You can tell it's all shot on a soundstage, and they're just telling you it's a spaceship, and then they'll cut to like a shitty animation of a spaceship going by, and then you're back in what's clearly a soundstage. But who cares? Pam Grier chews the fuck out of scenery. Like if you thought she'd choose scenery in Escape from L.A.,
Oh, I love her.
I give you Fortress 2 re-entry. So it's definitely low budge, straight to video 90s garbage. But if that's part of your palette, as it is mine, you will not be disappointed.
I also love that you tied it in a little bit to Logan's Run, because one of my favorite shots in Logan's Run is clearly they're on a sound stage going down the stairs on a sound stage, and you're like, oh, they're not even bothering to decorate it. There are scenes where the white or the black polished floor, I can see where the camera is. I'm like, I'm here for all of this. I love it. Amazing. Okay, my Be Bad, Be Best is from 2013. A friend recommended it to me. I hadn't seen it somehow, and so I wanted to ask you fellas: is it Be Bad? Is it Be Best? The great Tom Hardy in Lock.
Oh boy!
Did you guys see this one?
Nope.
This is before he became Bane, so you could totally understand him, and he was very clear in this movie. This is a film.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, he's great.
I have seen it. I was waiting for Jeff to weigh in. I mean, I
haven't seen it. No, I mean, I like him in Venom.
Judging by what you know, Be Bad or Be Best. Judging by what you can see,
I'll go with Be Best.
Because of Hardy, right?
Yeah, I like Tom Hardy.
Yeah. I think that's a fair judgment.
What's special about this movie is that the only person who's seen on screen is Tom Hardy driving a car. He takes a series of 36 phone calls over the course of like an hour and a half, where you start to see, it's almost to me like the driving version of Falling Down, where you have a guy who's made some bad decisions in his entire life, from his work life to his family life, to he has a mistress who's giving birth, to the wife who's how dare you betray us. And he's doing all of this with a performance while he's driving in this compressed time, where he's trying to solve a work problem even though he's been fired. He's trying to deal with his wife even though she's like, don't come home. I'm dealing with my kids. They're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. And then there's the crazy woman who is going through duress, and all of this is it's like the Tom Hardy version. Like the SAT question would be like, Tom Hanks is to Castaway, the Sandra Bullock is to Gravity, except Hardy really is the only person on screen. Like Bullock had Clooney for a couple minutes, but like it's just a tour de force for an actor, and they did it in one night. And one of our great writers, Stephen Knight, wrote and directed it. They shot it, I think, in six nights, and I just thought this is a really impressive film. And in 2013, I don't know how I missed this because I love Tom Hardy, but this is an actor's kind of like, wow, man, that he could make this work. Because a lot of people, I'd be like, I don't care. Like and again, I know I don't get it, but if like Timothée Chalamet remade Locke, I'd be like, I can't. But like with Hardy, I'm with him. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Hardy completist, then you have to watch this movie. It's certainly all Hardy all the time. I had the same problem personally. For me, this is a Be Bad.
No,
I would skip it. I think it's kind of boring, and it's got the same problem that around the same time, Ryan Reynolds was in a movie called Buried, where it was all Ryan Reynolds.
I remember that. Yeah, with the lighter and the.
And more recently, the not sequel to Locke called Locked with Pennywise Skarsgård.
Yeah, that's right.
It suffers from the same problems. Like these movies run out of steam because they wind up going in narrative circles. In order to try and escalate the stakes. It's just the narrative circle has a new problem. So now you have two problems. Now you have three. But it's ultimately exhausting for me. I just don't. I just can't get into these. These are if they were episodes of a TV show, they would be called bottle episodes. They're bottle episodes of movie stars' careers. Sometimes you get a Gravity, but I think they spent way more money on Gravity than they did on these other ones. And Gravity I'm 100% behind.
She should have won for Gravity. I'm gonna.
It's such a good movie, but it's also like tight, 90 minutes. Boom, you're like on the edge the whole time. But the other ones that are more earthbound,
Yeah,
where they're in a car or in a coffin, they run out of steam for me. I'm like,
my plug for this one is because I actually was really involved. I got emotionally involved in what's going on with this woman, what's going on with the wife, what's going on. And that the phone calls, like Andrew Scott, who I'm obsessed with, is one of the voices. Tom Holland's one of the voices. They're actually not on screen, but they're actually doing interesting work as actors too. Hi, Pliskin. What's up?
hey, Pliskin, what's up, Bob?
Pliskin likes it too, right? I know. But it's specific. It's specific. So I totally understand. It's not for everybody. But I don't know how I missed this in 2013. So I just wanted to.
Totally get it.
So
And by the way,
Lock.
you got to make sure you watch Lock and not Locked. You're gonna get confused, you guys, when you go out there and try to do something.
Lock. I saw this trailer so many times because I go to the movies a lot. I have a Regal.
Regal
Unlimited. So I just go and sometimes I go and watch a movie. I'll fall asleep in it. I don't care. If I fall asleep in the movie, it's $24.99. I'll go watch 10 movies in a month. But Locked, I saw this trailer for multiple times. It just kind of made me think of the movie Phone Booth. And Phone Booth is just stuck in the phone booth. And this movie is just a dude stuck in a car. So I already saw Phone Booth, so I'm good.
Phone Booth is more fun because there's way more cursing. Locked is there's not enough cursing.
True. That is true. What Todd just said.
Let's do when bad films happen to good actors, shall we?
Do it.
Do you want me to go first again, or do you want to?
I'll go first.
Right.
This is an unnecessary remake to a classic film by really talented people. No one asked for the remake, and no one went to go see this remake. I am talking about All the King's Men: Sean Penn, Jude Law, Kate Winslet, James Gandolfini, Mark Ruffalo, Patricia Clarkson, and Anthony Hopkins. Doesn't work at all. And it's just watch the original, but Jesus Christ, look at this lineup. You could not afford to make this film today. And Gandolfini we've lost, of course. But oh my God. No, just see the original.
Have I seen that? I don't even know.
Yeah, Steve Zalian, y'all, who's one of our best writers as well. So I went with really great writers, this one, I just feel like I think as Todd said best, if you're a completist and you like any of these actors, you should see it. But it's not good, and it makes me hurt because I think, again, politically, Huey Long is someone we should know and you should care about and you should take lessons from, and we should understand, that storyline because we're certainly reliving it. And this is not the film to do it. And it was a real bummer in its day. So I just felt like, that's an incredible cast to have a bad film happen to.
Have you seen this one, Jeff?
No.
No.
I'm on with if there's too much star power, I will try to avoid it because I just feel like all-star casts end up just being not good movies.
Often.
My son said that once to me when he was young. He read the cast list of the movie and he's like, those people are all famous, right? So this movie's probably not very good.
Oh.
Genius.
Colby.
God bless
Bear. There it is.
Yeah. My sci-fi movie that has an escape in it, it's not entirely about an escape. I don't know what it's about. It doesn't make sense. But it's called The Chronicles of Riddick. It's a sequel to the movie Pitch Black, which is great.
Yep.
And this is a PG-13 adventure Star Wars soap opera type movie with Vin Diesel, who's got no charisma at all, and it's got
Judi Dench, lady.
And Judi Dench cannot elevate this thing, and she deserved better. She deserved
a awful movie. I think Chronicles of Riddick is just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is.
I remember the press junket for this where Dame Judi Dench was like, oh, yes, my grandchildren, they really like Mr. Diesel. So I made a movie with Mr. Diesel. And I was like, oh my God. Even the way she said Mr. Diesel, I'm like, I love her. This is not good. And the idea that Pitch Black was so low budge, indie, cool, the whole look of Pitch Black. A friend who was one of the producers on it apparently the film got half of the film got so destroyed in the lab because it was back in the day that they just went with a look and made it match because they'd ruined the film. They didn't have enough money to reshoot. That's why it has that blown out look. It was actually damaged and then they had to match. So to go from that to then a huge Universal, you know, we're going to take this because it was the time where Vin was doing like Triple X and Fast and the Furious, and it was the Universal buy-in to Mr. Diesel. But yeah, this is a terrible film that should not have been this bad because Riddick is a cool character, and I really like Pitch Black. I will die on that hill. I think that's a really effective film.
The third one's, you know, not great either, but it's way better than.
Loves this. Oh my gosh, it's okay. No, she's clarifying.
It is dumb. It's dumb. It's trying to be the wrong thing. I mean, it's a sequel to a horror movie. It's trying to do like maybe an Aliens take on the original, but it
more like a spit take. More like a spit take. That's what.
Yeah, it mistakes an action movie for an adventure movie. I think.
Yes.
Like Aliens is a fucking action movie.
It's an action movie.
In the shit. That's the whole point of it.
It knew
this
what it
is
was.
like this rah adventure a la a Star Wars sequel, and it's stupid because it's got a killer in the lead.
I know. It's unfortunate. All right, the boost. We end on a positive note because, gosh, don't we wish the world would? So here we are. Todd, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. My boost is another escape movie. I probably mentioned this movie on the show before, but it's one of my great comfort movies. Like when I'm in that place, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I'm in that place, I have like a couple hours to myself. You know, I owe only myself these 2 hours, and I'll think, what movie do I want to watch? What movie? And then I'll get bamboozled by all the movies I could possibly pick and go, maybe I should go comfort food. And so often it is.
Oh, yes.
No Escape, starring the late great Ray Liotta and lots of other amazing actors, including Kevin Dillon and Ernie Hudson, who are pictured, but also like Lance Henriksen, and it just goes on. And I can't remember the name of the British guy who plays the bad guy
Wilson.
In the woods with the great teeth.
Yes, something Wilson.
He's in Lethal Weapon 3, and he's in what's the not Shaun of the Dead, the Hot Fuzz. He's in Hot Fuzz. He's one of the, you know.
Yeah, no. I love this. This is my mentor, Galen Hurd, post-apocalyptic.
Right.
She produced this, and when I was working for Gail in my office, I had the original one-sheet poster, and I had that gun as a prop by my desk, which I thought was very exciting every day. And Gail was like, nobody cares about this prop. I'm like, I do. I'll take it in my office. I think I saw this twice in the theater, and I own it on VHS. It's real. The love is real.
Well, I owned it on VHS.
I love this movie. I think it's an underrated little. It's a Roger Corman B gem. And it doesn't pretend to be anything other than that. And everybody is firing on all cylinders. Like the actors are just doing their job and then some. It's wonderful, I think. Yeah.
You seen it, Jeff?
No, but I'm going to now.
Oh, golly. Yeah. See this. You'll love it. You will love it. I guarantee you.
Like if I were programming a double feature, I would do No Escape and Waterworld together. Like I just love those films so much, and they got so much shit when they came out. And I'm sorry, but they're so fun, and I love them. So I would program that. Mine is completely different. I'm boosting it just because it's like if you subscribe to Max or HBO Max or whatever Zaslav calls it this week after the rebrand that he paid millions of dollars for. The great Mariska Hargitay has made a documentary looking for her mom, basically called My Mom Jane, Jane being Jane Mansfield, the va-va-voom would-be heir apparent to Marilyn Monroe, who dies at the age of 34, tragically. Mariska was like 3, doesn't have a memory of her mom, and really over COVID thought, well, now I have time. And so she goes through and she talked with her real family, and there's a bunch of revelations, including her dad was not Mickey Hargitay, her biological dad. He raised her, but it was somebody else. And so here's a woman who's looking for a parent that she never got to know, talking to her older siblings, and then finds out that the dad, who is her rock, very much her father, but not the bio dad, and then meets the bio dad through a fan of the Jane Mansfield Network who reaches out and puts it together for her. It is emotionally like you're on a therapy ride with her. You don't have to be famous to understand this. This is family Drama, trauma, we all have it. But Mariska directs this film, and not only is it's very brave, it's very bold. No one should have to go through all this stuff. And I just thought this is a remarkable documentary that will emotionally, I think, move you. And they still found time to, I think, do right by Jane Mansfield, who I think, again, there's no version of watching a Jane Mansfield film and not going massive star. But unlike Marilyn, she didn't really have the prestige movies that endure. So I think her persona is larger than the work. And there's a certain kind of sweet justice in a sense that her daughter, Mariska Hargitay, actually got to have the career Jane wanted, which was, I want to be a serious dramatic actress. Her Olivia Benson on SVU it's over 26 years running, the longest running drama, the longest running female character. She's won Emmys, very, very talented lady. But this is a very raw, exposed family doc that I've just never seen anything quite like it. And as somebody who appreciates Mansfield's work and also the Hollywood era in which she tried to function in, what they did to her in that process, and then to have the daughter find the mom and then find some peace for perhaps both of them. I thought this is a remarkable piece of filmmaking. So I can't think of anything I want to boost more this week than this. It's a real special thing. If you're a film buff or you got family stuff, that you could, I think, a lot to learn here.
It sounds great.
Yeah,
I saved it to my list on my Mac subscription for sure.
Nice.
Thank you. It's
I want to boost something if
please
I can.
boost.
Yeah, please.
So I know people are marveled out, and a lot of people didn't really maybe give the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A go back, when it was on. I rewatch it every year, and I just finished rewatching it maybe a month ago or whatever. But just like I said earlier, it's got something to say. It's social commentary. This Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is completely different than any of the movies in that it had to build its own universe. The only character you really know is Coulson, but it is saying something. The movies had to be broad, right? Because they have to appeal to a larger audience.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm telling you, when you watch it, most of it was made during the first Trump administration, and it was taking shots.
Yeah, it was.
Right? It was taking shots. And it hit different in 2025 than it did when it was in its original run. It really is. Just take away that it's Marvel. Don't let that cloud your judgment. It really does have something to say. It's fun sci-fi, it's fun comic book stuff, but it really has a message that I think is important. It's even more important in 2025 than it was when the show actually was on the air for its 7th season.
Yeah, it's a great show. I agree with you. I feel like, in a weird way, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Good Fight were taking on Trump in very head-on ways that I didn't see other people doing. And, I haven't revisited it since it was first on. I should go back because I remember thinking, God, this is a really smart show. Because
Colby and Hillary loved that show. They watched every episode.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Amazing.
Yeah. Great boost. Thank you, Jeff, for doing the show. That was awesome.
Good to see you.
Always good to have you. I'm sure you'll be back hopefully soon. And I guess are we taking next week off because of the holiday?
Oh, right. Yeah, probably. Check the TV.
No show next week, but we'll be back the following week, and we'll see what we've got cooking.
Bigger and badder and meaner than ever. Yeah,
it's going to be really mean. We're going to get really mean. Gloves will be off.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody.
The new America.
Good night, everybody.
Peace out.
Stay safe.